Friends, a warm welcome from Aussie's Group. We are back today for the second session of the PTE Q&A interactive series. I'm Malcolm and with me I have Gaurang. Hello sir, how are you today?
I'm fine, Malcolm. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for being here today. As always, it's a pleasure to have you here, sir.
As always, it's a pleasure for me as well to be here. I really enjoy our live sessions.
Definitely, sir. So last time we did the read aloud task, and today we are doing the task which is repeat sentence, the second task in the speaking module.
Right.
So, sir, if you can just share with the viewers, how important can this task be?
Well, Malcolm, it is an integrated task, and in the PTE exam, all integrated tasks are really important.
That's true.
So this is also a very important task, and it is the first task of listening.
That's right.
That test takers will come across.
That's right.
That makes it doubly important.
That's right, friends. As the name of the task itself is repeat sentence. So first, obviously, we'll be listening to the sentence, and after that, we'll be repeating the sentence.
Yes.
So obviously, it's an integrated task of speaking and listening both.
Yes.
Right. And generally, how many questions can we have in this task?
It's not fixed. Sometimes it can be as less as 6. Sometimes it can go as many as 14.
That's right. So generally around 10 to 12 questions.
Yes, 10 to
roughly
12
around 10.
is
Expected.
expected.
That's right. And as you correctly said that this is the first task of listening in the speaking module. So the thing is that generally all questions of speaking have two timers. The first is the reverse timer, after which the audio plays, or maybe you see the question on the screen, after which the recording timer starts.
Yes.
So how much time do we get before the sentence plays in every question?
As far as I recall, it's just about 3
3
seconds.
seconds, that's right. We get just 3 seconds.
Yes.
And do we have any beep when the question ends?
No, not in this
No.
question. No
That's
beep.
right, friends. We don't have any beep in this task. Now, the reason why I shared or why I asked this question is because many times people are waiting for the beep because they hear the beep in read aloud in speaking. As
Yes. The task immediately before this, the first task of the speaking section has a beep.
That's right.
The next task after this also has a beep.
Yes.
But this particular
Doesn't have a
task
beep.
does not have a beep.
That's true. So basically, the recording timer starts without the beep. And I believe there's a gap of 1 second.
Yes.
Roughly 1 second after the recording ending and the recording timer starting.
Yes. So the audio ends, and at that time there will be a countdown timer just above the recording bar.
That's right.
And in that you will see 1 second left.
1 second left. Right.
And then that 1 second goes and the recording starts. So effectively you get just 1 second to gather your wits and then start speaking.
And I think that also means that basically you have to train your mind to wait for a second and not repeat immediately as the audio ends.
Yes.
Because even if you speak immediately, it will not be recorded.
Yes, that is also true. So you have to wait for that 1 second. Okay, we already have question coming in, and as usual, it's our regular participant, it's our regular contributor, Jagroshan Singh. Welcome, Jagroshan. We are happy that you are back with us live today. Let us see what your questions are. Jagroshan's first question is, what is the best technique to retain the information in working memory? I think that's what plays a major role in this task. And the second question is also, which technique would you recommend, imagination or visualization? Sometimes the sentence does not have anything to visualize. It is hard sometimes. Writing first letter of each words, he says, did not work for me. Understand the context or meaning of the sentence. When the sentence is long, it becomes hard, truly said. Or else, close your eyes, listen to the sentence, see it written as the speaker speaks, and then repeat. That's what I do, practicing this one nowadays. Well, he's asked a lot of questions, and Jagroshan, you've given so many ideas to our viewers. That's really great. Well, sir, how would you answer his questions?
The third thing which you've written, or close your eyes, listen to the sentence and then repeat, that is a bit risky, honestly.
Yes.
Why risky? Because obviously if you close the eyes, yes, you can focus better, but the thing is there is no beep in this task.
Yes.
And many times if you just focused on remembering or retaining the sentence, that happens sometimes that the recording timer starts and you may miss out a few important seconds.
Yes, and if you don't speak for 3 seconds,
that's right,
the recording will stop.
That's
so it is important. Well, in a way, that thing works. Only thing is, don't close your eyes fully. Just close them halfway. Just reduce the shutters halfway. Keep looking at the screen and then try to visualize things.
That's right, obviously, because obviously you need to be aware of the time. That's the main thing. You respect time, time respects you. Obviously.
Yes. Okay, he's also said imagination or visualization. That can also work if you have a vivid imagination. Then there will also be people who just cannot imagine, because for them hearing in itself, listening in itself is a major task.
That's true.
Doing an imagination at the same time, they will get lost.
It's even more difficult. Yes.
Yes,
That's true.
yes.
I can add one thing that since the name of the task is PT academic, most of the sentences generally are academic sentences. Now, academic sentences means many times something to do with maybe books, libraries, studies, teaching, some subjects, something
Yes,
like that.
yes.
Research, funding, timetable, such words can and should be expected by the test taker. Generally helps anticipate.
Yes. And from experience, what we can also say is that most of the sentences that come are somehow related to a university or a school, or talking about class timing or
That's right.
assignment submission,
That's
stuff
right.
like that. That is what most of the sentences are centered around.
That's true.
So if you get yourself acquainted with and used to hearing and retaining such words, you will find that attempting this task becomes easier.
That's right. Now, there are different challenges in this task as well. First problem is, let's say I'm a beginner in English. I don't have, a very good retention as well. Now, what is the problem? First challenge is that maybe I don't know the meaning of a few words.
Right.
That's the first problem. Second problem, let's say I'm an intermediate speaker. I understand the words, but maybe I can't remember the whole sentence.
Yes.
And even if you're an advanced speaker or you understand the language really well, still it can be a problem, because if any, let's say, unfamiliar word comes, then there's a risk that you may forget the entire link.
That's true.
So many problems with this task, to be honest.
Yeah. Coming back to Jagroshan's questions, one of the first things that I would recommend you, Jagroshan, to do is to start reading loudly every day.
Right.
The more you read loudly, the more you will listen as well. Okay? And also, because you will be reading, your memory retention automatically increases.
That's true.
Another thing that you can do is practice listening to different sounds, different audios, different speakers.
Accents as well.
And accents on a daily basis, and try to repeat that. You can do it something as simple as listening to the news and just repeating what the speaker is saying, the news reader is saying. That would also help you.
True.
That is one technique that you can apply. Because this is a very spontaneous task.
Right.
You cannot say that there is one tried and tested technique that would apply to it. Different people, different retentions, different ways of responding, different listening abilities. So you have to find what works best for you.
True.
And the only one who can do that is you.
True. Also, you asked whether you can write down the initials and practice this task. Now, that is again a very good and a very common technique. Many people do use it. But again, actually, you have answered the question yourself that if the sentence is very long, that is, let's say if it is more than 10 words, or let's say 12 or 13 words, that even noting can be a problem. Because noting is not the issue, but processing what you've written in such a short time, that is a problem, which you noted that point, that it's difficult for you to do it.
Yes. One thing that I saw one of the test takers doing is that maybe they had learned it earlier, they did shorthand.
Yeah, many people do that as
A
well.
lot of people do shorthand. Develop your own shorthand.
Yes.
And then note down words. Maybe that will help you remember. But again, it's what you are comfortable with. I always come back to that. Whatever is the technique that applies to you, you should follow that.
Yes. Another way is that you can also mix two techniques. For example, some people remember the first half of the sentence well.
Right.
Some people maybe remember the second half. So you can quickly note down the part which you don't remember, and the part which you remember, you just say it.
Okay. Now, one question that I have been asked by a lot of students. What do I do if I remember just 4 words and then I forget everything else?
So at least those 4 words you should speak out, obviously. That is the first thing. But if you remember the last 4, or let's say only the first 4 words you remember, and you forget the last words, and obviously you have to try to write it down. What else will you do?
Should they go ahead and complete the sentence with whatever words they can remember, or create a sentence using the words that they can remember?
Yes, definitely, because PT uses a software called, or not a software, but an algorithm which uses something called an LSA. For example, let's say there's a sentence about students. Instead of the word students, I say a word something like study.
Okay.
So linked word. So that, yes, it will affect the score, but not as much as we are expecting it to.
Okay.
But now instead of students, let's say I say people, then obviously it's not matching.
It's not linked.
Right. So even the context is very important. So try to just finish the sentence without stopping.
Okay.
Because if you do then obviously the fluency breaks, and then obviously the score has to go down.
Okay. Another question that I had was this. Suppose, as you said, the word given is study.
Yeah.
And when I'm speaking, instead of study, I say study.
Yeah.
How will it affect my marks?
It will affect, but again I'll say not as much as we expect it to affect. So instead of thinking, even for a millisecond, I would suggest just straight away.
Okay, so no stopping, just
Of
finish
course,
the sentence.
no stopping at all, because if you stop, the oral fluency component will be affected in the score, and obviously the listening and the speaking scores go down.
Okay.
Mainly the speaking score.
Well, that's great. And now we have Deep, who was also there with us in the last session. He's also got a question. Thank you, Deep, for your participation. I can listen all the words, but when I start right, then I forget the last word, what speaker said. Well, Deep, this is a common issue faced by many test takers.
You just mentioned right now.
We just discussed that. Sometimes it is difficult. If you're writing down, you will remember the first few words and then forget the last few words. So, as Malcolm suggested, you can try this technique wherein you are trying to balance. So, you will write down a few words and you will remember a few other words. What you have written down, you don't need to remember, and what you haven't written down, that is the part you should remember. And then create a sentence out of the combination of the two. That should help you speak a full sentence.
I can suggest one in general way to improve the accuracy in this task. Now see, the problem in this task is what? And generally the problem is in the mind, first thing. Second thing is, the problem is with the approach to the problem. Now generally people practice speaking in this way. For example, people generally practice the whole module of speaking. For example, let's say 6-7 questions of read aloud. After that, maybe let's say 10 to 13 questions of repeat sentence, then 6-7 questions of describe image. Now, if you're doing it that way in your early stages, when you're starting your PTE preparation, then obviously that is not a good way. So ideally, what should you do? Practice the same task again and again, till you have a mastery over that. Which means that if you're doing, let's say, a repeat sentence, do at least 50 questions of repeat sentence, record all your answers and listen to them. And then evaluate how many words you're getting. Let's say out of 10, you're getting 8, out of 9, you're getting 6. So at least you'll have an idea what my accuracy is.
Yes, and of course, there's the saying, practice makes a man perfect.
That's
so
true.
The more you practice,
You'll get used to it.
the better you will get at it.
Definitely.
Okay.
That's right.
Well, yes, Deep, you are welcome. It is always a pleasure to answer questions, so you don't need to thank us for it.
Thank you.
Okay, Malcolm, another question that has been asked a lot of times by students is this. Some of the audios are really fast.
Yes.
Some of them have strange sounding words. How do we attempt those?
Right. Now the thing is that if it's a strange sounding word, which means that maybe you've not heard it before. Obviously.
Right.
That's why it's a problem. So my suggestion is, don't try to memorize the word without understanding it. Anyway, you are going to say it if you need the full score. So then, why memorize it? Don't memorize the word. Just make similar sounds of that word.
Okay.
But just don't stop. That's the main thing.
Okay.
Just keep on speaking.
And what about, suppose they are just not able to pronounce that word again?
Yes, that's
Should they replace it with something easier?
You can replace it, but even to replace it, either it has to be spontaneous, because if your mind thinks, then obviously there's a pause, and if there's a pause, the fluency goes down.
Right.
So ideally, replacement is not the correct strategy, I would suggest, but just say it.
Just say, try to say it as
and
nicely as you can.
Exactly, and that will only come with practice and feedback. Obviously, you need to sit with somebody, or as I said, you record your own recordings and understand where are you lacking mainly.
Yes. Also, I think somewhere in this, the collocations list that we discussed last time would come in handy if people get that collocation list, students get that list, and they start listening to how those words are pronounced.
That's right.
I guess when they actually come across that word in the test, they would be able to pronounce it.
That's right. And since you're talking about pronunciation, I would also like to add that yes, pronunciation is also a very important enabling skill in the scorecard, and this task also massively affects the pronunciation score.
Right.
So basically, you need to speak like the speaker, I would put it that way. So if the speaker is speaking fast, then ideally even you should try to speak fast.
Yes.
Because then if the pauses come in between, it's a problem.
Right. So this is something I think that even Pearson says, that if you are following the tone,
Yes.
and if you are repeating the sentence exactly as it was spoken, then
Right.
you get better marks.
Right.
Okay. We have another question from Qazi Shahzad. I got 90 in speaking 3 times, but in last 2 tests I got 64. I am really curious about this.
Now, Kazi, first of all, thank you for posting the question. But to answer the question, we would require also the scores of your oral fluency and pronunciation.
Yes.
Because without those scores, it's really difficult to comment. Obviously, you have changed something because of it the software is giving you a less score. And
Right.
you have got 90, which means you should have the confidence, and you have it already, I know that, to get the 90. But somewhere, something has been
Something has happened.
moving,
Maybe
yes.
you froze somewhere, or maybe you just stumbled. Maybe
Yes.
your recording equipment was not working
Could
properly.
happen,
We do
yes.
not know. We cannot just say it. We would of course need your scorecard. So if you can share your scorecard on us by personal message, Malcolm or myself, we can take a look at it and then we can give you proper feedback as to what went wrong.
That's right.
Okay. Malcolm, that is about how to attempt. What about the scoring? What is the kind of scoring that students should expect from this?
Right. Now, this task is obviously an integrated task, which means the speaking and listening scores both have to be affected by this task. That's the
Right.
first thing.
Right.
Now, when it comes to scoring, obviously the first thing which will be scored is the content. And what is the content in a repeat sentence? Basically, it's the sentence itself.
Right.
And exactly what is the content? The exact content is the number of words in any sentence. And generally in this task, the number of words is usually between 7 to 12 or 13 words, generally.
Right.
Now, PTE has a very clear-cut guideline when it comes to scoring in this task, that if all the words which you speak are correct, you will get a full score in content, which is 3 out of 3 sub-points. These are not points out of 90, but these are points within points, sort of.
Right.
On the other hand, if the entire sentence is wrong, that is, let's out of 7 words are wrong, let's say instead of English I speak in Hindi, then what will I get? I'll get a 0.
Correct.
If we speak more than 50% of the words or less than 100, that is in between 50 and 100, we will get 2 out of 3 points.
Right.
And last but not the least, if it is between 0 and 50, you will get 1 point.
Okay.
So basically, this is the scoring for the content in these tasks.
Okay. But what happens if somebody speaks the same number of words,
Right.
everything in English, but the
Right.
words are not all matching?
If they're not matching, you mean extra words?
So, suppose the sentence was, Professor Smith will be late for today's lecture.
Right.
Okay. And the student says, Professor Smith is going to be late for today's lecture.
Yes, so
The
basically,
number of words is more or less the same.
yes, even the meaning is the same,
Right.
but the words are not exactly the same.
Mhm.
And the instruction clearly states that repeat the sentence exactly as it
As
is.
you heard.
As
Yes.
you heard it, yes, that's right.
Right. So that is where the score will go down.
That's right, because you need, basically it's a software, so it is checking the words which we speak.
Right. And we all know that it is voice recognition, so it is going to check
It is going to check,
whether you are
yes.
speaking exactly what has been fed to it.
Sequence, that's right.
Right. Now, another thing that students have asked, usually the sentences that they hear and the time that takes for repeating it is 5 to 7 seconds,
Right.
and the timer is for almost 15 seconds.
Right.
What should they do soon as they have completed it, the sentence? Should they repeat it?
No, of course not. You speak the sentence only once. You don't have to repeat. Yes, the name is repeat sentence, but only once. You don't have to repeat the repeat sentence, obviously, only once. And as we said last time as well, in any task of speaking, once you're done, ideally, you should click on next immediately. Why? Because the overall timer doesn't stop for you. So basically, you'll just be wasting time. And if you're repeating the sentence again, then obviously you're making it more troublesome for yourself, because the software again will try to, it will add the words and then it will check with the sentence. Obviously,
Okay.
it won't match.
Yeah. So the number of words increases, and
Yes,
so you get
definitely.
less scores.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, Malcolm, do we have any student of ours, of yours, who really had a struggle with this? Is there anything that we can, use as a case study for our students?
Yes, I would not like to name the student, but for the timing, let's call her K.
Okay.
And it's a genuine case. Now, this student of mine, 2 weeks back roughly, she had a test. She had 19 speaking, reading 88. Now the surprising thing, listening 68, writing 82.
Oh,
which means 8 plus in speaking and 9 in speaking is 90, 88 in reading and 82 in writing. Now generally when you have 90 in speaking and 82 also in writing, which means all your writing tasks have also gone well,
right.
which include the listening tasks,
The
the
three
three
tasks as
tasks
well,
of
yes.
listening. Still that student got a 68 in listening.
Okay.
So even before I could ask her, she only told me, before I could ask like, what went wrong basically? This is a very weird score. You know? She told me that, sir, I was used to the method that I used to write the initials.
Right.
And unfortunately, at her test center, the pen stopped working.
Uh-oh.
So obviously, 2 to 3 questions gone.
Okay.
Because her mind works that way. She's
Okay.
programmed to note it and then speak it. So obviously, very unfortunate. And she did lodge a complaint after that. Basically, what is done is done. What is gone is gone.
Right.
So for such eventualities, you need to be prepared, ideally I would say. Because such things can also happen. And obviously, it happened in 3 or 4 questions as she said in repeat sentence. So obviously, 68 in listening, but 82 in writing and 90 in speaking, which means everything, and 88 in reading, which means everything went perfect except 3 or 4 questions of repeat.
That mistake that happened.
Unfortunately, yes.
So this actually reminds me of one of my students as well.
Right.
Again, a lady.
All right.
She did not have a very high score requirement. She needed just 7 each.
Right.
Okay. And she was struggling with speaking because from India, so she's not used to that language that much.
Right.
And but she's very sharp in that sense.
Right.
So when she went into the exam and in repeat sentence, she knew she would struggle. So what she did was, when the sentence came up and she forgot, she actually had her passport with her and she picked that up and read from that one sentence. Just
Alright.
once. She did that just once.
Okay.
Okay. She got 81 in speaking.
All right.
However, her score for listening was just 52.
Okay.
Right? So she asked me the same thing. It's a parallel,
Right,
you know, if you look at it. And she did this in repeat sentence only. So that means that repeat sentence in that sense can affect your listening marks in a very big way.
Very big way, that's true. So that's what I'm saying. This girl got a 19 speaking, maybe because she was very fluent, she just kept on speaking something, but obviously the content was, there was no content because
Right.
her mind was, her attention was diverted because she didn't have the pen. So obviously she was under pressure. She could not speak it right.
So what this tells us is that with repeat sentence, if you still speak and if what you have spoken is not 100% accurate, you will get marks for your speaking, but you will not get anything for your listening.
That's true, because fluency and pronunciation are still being measured. The timer doesn't stop.
Yes, and this brings us back to what we have been telling students for a very long time, that speaking and then listening, these are the two most important parts of the test, because these are the ones that have got integrated tasks.
That's true.
Right? And repeat sentence is one task. If you mess it up, you will not get your scores in listening.
That's true. There are a few tasks in PTE, and mainly all are integrated tasks. Few of those, you have to get a full score in those. Anyhow means anyhow, if you're looking for 79 at least.
Exactly.
Otherwise, difficult.
We do not have any other questions at the moment, Malcolm sir. Is there anything that we, as PTE coaches, have more for our students?
I'm trying to think of any such question.
Well, because this is repeat sentence, and while it has got a lot of weightage and a lot of questions as well, it is one of the most high, in terms of number of questions, it has got highest, I think. This and answer short questions, these are the two that have the maximum number of questions. You should be ready for it. Don't get caught napping, particularly with repeat sentence. Okay? And also, because in the exam you will never realize when it goes from read aloud to repeat sentence.
You have to be ready mentally.
You have to be ready.
One thing I would like to add is that, as you correctly said, let's recall that sentences can be very fast.
Yes.
And lengthy as well at the same time.
Yes.
Now the thing is, many times, or sometimes it happens that the mind is not ready for something unexpected. And if all of a sudden, if it comes like blah, 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 very lengthy sentence, then it can be a problem. So basically, as I said, it's all in the mind. You need to believe it, that you will do it, and you will do it. Otherwise, it's difficult.
I read it somewhere that the human mind, the normal human mind, has the capacity to capture, retain, and repeat
Yeah.
up to 12 words.
Okay.
That is why most of
Yes.
the countries around the world have telephone numbers that are up to 12 digits,
Right.
including the international dialing code.
Right.
Right? But in the PTE test, you can come across sentences that are 15, maybe even 16
Yes.
words long.
It can be rare, but yes, it can happen. Yes, it can.
So the only way you can be sure that you will answer this question correctly, all of the questions in this task correctly, is to practice every day. From the day you decide that you want to take the PTE test, this is one question that you can start practicing, because it's really simple. All you need is listen to a sentence, can be any sentence to start with, but if it's an academic one, if it is related to studies, education, classes, schools, universities, anything like that, it will help you.
That's true.
And just keep on doing that. As Malcolm sir suggested, 40, maybe 50 questions
At a time.
at a time in a single day, and you will get there. There are tons of practice materials available.
Yes, you just open YouTube, you'll get thousands of questions, and yes, you can answer it.
Yes, and we also have a lot on ptetutorials.com.
Definitely, there's a lot of free material on pttutorials.com. You can just go to the sample questions, they are good quality questions. And then, of course, if you're interested, you can definitely buy the tests as well. They'll definitely be of help to you.
And we definitely know that it works. After all, we have a live example just last week, right?
That's true. We had a fantastic score. We had actually, to add to it, I would like to say that we had 3 scores of perfect 90s. And that is not the big deal. The big deal is that all 3 of those got it in their first attempt.
That's unbelievable.
And all 3 of them were associated with the Aussies group.
Yes.
One of the students, he just practiced from pttutorials.com. That's it. And in the mail which he has sent me, he was honest enough to admit that he spent just 3 days practicing.
Ooh.
Intensive practice. He's from Bangladesh, by the way. Intensive practice from pttutorials.com. Lot of confidence. Went to the test. Got 90 each.
Actually, that tells me that maybe we should talk to him and ask him to become our brand ambassador in Bangladesh.
Definitely, that's true. Friends, many times we believe that, if you're from a country when English is not the native language, many times we feel that, it's a difficult test.
Yes.
But believe us that PT is not a difficult test. It is an easy test. At least I personally feel so, and I'm sure Gaurang will also agree with me.
Yes.
It is not a difficult test.
It is complex.
Yes.
It can be tricky at times,
Yes, that's
but it
right,
is
sir.
definitely not difficult.
Yes, there are many question types. To be precise, there are 20 question types in the test.
Yes.
But as he said, the correct word, the perfect word he used is can be tricky at times. It tests your focus. It tests your concentration levels. It doesn't test the English that much, honestly. But it's a very comprehensive test of English, because there are integrated tasks of speaking and reading, listening and speaking, listening and reading. So it's a very good test which tests your overall skills of English. Yes.
And while it says PTE academic, what I have seen is that most of the questions that you have to answer are somehow real life situation based.
That's the beauty of PT. For example, the best situation where I can think that it's a real life test is the speaking test itself.
Yes.
Because when we speak, everyone around us is speaking, and you and I personally asked this to people in Pearson that, why is it like this? Like, even if, there are partitions, still you can hear the sound of the people obviously sitting next to you. Now, the lady who answered me, she's the head of Pearson in UK. She had come to India last year, and I was really obliged to meet her in person when she visited our overseas office in Ahmedabad, Gujarat. The answer she gave me really impressed me a lot. She told me that, Malcolm, the reason is that we want it to be as close to the real life scenario. So basically, we want it to be like as if you do the speaking in real life. And that is why, even if there are full partitions or cubicles, the noise will come in here.
Right. And I guess that is also the reason why a lot of audios in the test have inbuilt disturbances.
A lot of disturbance, a lot of distraction, echo, maybe very coarse audio. In the audio, another audio starts playing.
Yes, yes. And this is something that students have asked us when we are coaching.
Yes.
So why don't we use headphones? But the reason we don't use headphones is exactly that. We want you to get used
to it.
to disturbances around you.
That's right.
Because it is not going to be a classroom environment in the exam center. It is more like a cyber cafe rather than a pure classroom environment where everybody is silent and you are doing your work. No.
And very often it also becomes like a fish market.
Oh yes, oh yes. I have so many students who have come back and given me the feedback. So people were literally shouting in there.
Shouting, yeah.
Well, there are people who do not really understand this, and maybe there are some tutors also who give this advice to students: speak loudly and you will get more scores. We don't know, but I guess because there are people who are shouting, so somewhere they must be getting this advice, which is incorrect. Please do not shout. If you shout, your voice gets distorted. It's really sensitive.
It's very sensitive. It's a very high quality noise cancellation microphone, but still you need to speak normal loud, not loud loud.
Yes. Even the volume that we are using for this video is actually louder than what we should be
much
using.
louder. That's it.
Right? Well, Malcolm, I think we have covered almost everything that we have to cover for today.
That's true. And yes, I think if people follow what we ask them to do, first thing is a lot of concentration and focus.
Yes.
Second thing, a lot of confidence and self-belief that I will repeat the sentence without stopping. Because
Yes.
if you stop, oral fluency is affected, and if oral fluency is affected, maybe everything is affected. That's all.
So in speaking, whatever you do, whatever the task, don't stop.
Just be confident. Just believe that you're going to get 90, and believe me, you will get a 90. But if you have apprehensions, if you have doubts that what will happen, many times, because we've seen that people get nervous just before the test, and even when the test starts, even people who are like very confident when the test starts, the heart beat just
the butterflies in the
yes.
stomach, as I always say.
Yes.
Well, I get those too. When I give the test, I was that way.
Yeah.
But as soon as the test starts,
it starts,
it's
and
got
you need to, yes.
yeah,
need
you got
get
to switch off. You
That's
got to
right.
switch off everything else, focus on the test.
That's true, very true.
Yeah, that's it. And I think, Malcolm, this is our last live telecast for this year.
That's right. Today is the 21st of December, and yes, it is the last telecast for the PTE Q&A interactive series, because from this Saturday we are closed for the rest of the year because of the Christmas breaks.
Right.
And we'll be reopening from the 2nd of January, which is a Tuesday.
Right. And so the first live interactive Q&A session for 2018 will be on Thursday, which is 4th of January.
That's right. And the topic will be?
The topic will be the third task of speaking, which is describe image.
Very important and high weightage task for your speaking score.
The only pure speaking task.
That's true. But obviously, as I said, it's a very high weightage task. About 90, it occupies a high weightage.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, Malcolm, I will not be able to join you for that session and for the 2 sessions after that, because I will not be in town. But of course, we'll be having our colleague Tanu joining us.
Definitely. We'll be more than happy to have her over here.
I would be happy to watch you live from wherever I am on Facebook. I will definitely be signing in.
Thank you, sir. And students and test takers, fellow test, with our star performer who got 90 each last week from Bangladesh, he opted for the all-in-one package, which has the tests with evaluation and the sample essays and the sample summaries for the writing module
Right.
also.
And I guess it also includes the written assessment of the essays.
That's right, that's right. Second thing which I'd like to add is that you can still go for the unlimited package. If you enroll this year, it will be available for just $200 on it from pttutorials.com, absolutely. And of course, you can get 90 each if you do that.
It's been a great, all our viewers, a very, very happy Christmas and a happy and holiday.
Thank you, and I would also like to say all the best to all the test takers who will be taking their tests in the coming few days or the